Evolution of Internet Governance. The 1970s. At the start of the Internet, in the 1970s, networked computers had numeric addresses. For example, computer 123.25 communicated with computer 145.35. Once it was realized that we find it easier to memorize words than numbers, each and every computer was given a name. These names were translated back into numbers by the file host.txt, which consisted of a table with two columns, one for names and one for numbers. The Internet started growing fast, with thousands of new sites being added each day. It became increasingly difficult to manage a whole system with a single host.txt file. 1980s. In the early 1980s, the Internet community, led by Joe Postel, started discussing possible solutions. Eventually, the domain name system, referred to as DNS, was designed in 1984. It remains in use today. The DNS has categorized the single domain contained in host.txt into a number of domains. These include edu for education, com for commercial, gov for government, org for organizations, as well as a series of country codes. The administration of the DNS was undertaken by the charismatic Joe Postel. 1990s. With the exponential growth of the Internet, the registration of domain names became a more complex and demanding task. During the early 1990s, the U.S. National Science Foundation outsourced registration of domain names to a private company, the Network Solutions Incorporated. This decision was not well received by the Internet community. The privatization of this important feature was seen as a betrayal of the early spirit of the Internet, which had been forged in academic and non-profit circles. The resulting battle is known as the DNS War. Between 1994 and 1998, a number of actors were involved, including the Internet community, the business sector, the US government, civil society, academics, and the International Telecommunication Union. At the end of this process, the US government adopted the White Paper on Internet Governance, which resulted in the establishment of the Internet Company of Assigned Names and Numbers, known as ICANN, in 1998. 2000s. The growth of the Internet continues apace. It's become part of the infrastructure of many sectors. It's evidently in government's interest to be more involved in managing the Internet. Although ICANN's initial governance infrastructure did not include governments, this imbalance was partially rectified by ICANN's 2002 reform, in which it established the Government Advisory Committee. While some governments started using this option, other governments, mainly from developing countries, preferred that the Internet should be managed by international organizations. This was the backdrop for the 2003 World Summit on Information Society, held in Geneva. Internet governance became the key issue addressed at the Geneva Summit. It resulted in the establishment of the Working Group on Internet Governance, whose remit was to tackle the problem of Internet governance on a global level.